Hello and welcome to Tech Town.
Season
2, episode 24. We're back at you after a 4-week-long hiatus.
That's right. I mean, quite a hiatus, but I didn't hiate it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're back.
Yeah, all the hiators were out there talking some trash.
But don't worry, we're back. We're
back.
Not stopping this trend.
No, we can't stop. We won't stop. It's Cinco de Mayo.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're coming to you. We're coming back at you. And we've got all things to talk Linux today. I'm Mr. Ellsberg. This is our town wizard.
Boom.
Linux.
Yes, Linux. We've discussed it before. You may have thought that sounded mysterious and interesting. Now it's time to get comfortable.
Yeah, let's peel back the layers of said mystery.
The onion of Linux.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Linux, what is it? It's an operating system.
Okay.
So what's an operating system? Well, you have Windows, you have Mac OS 10, you have Android is even an operating system, iOS is an operating system. So all these things are basically the thing that you're using on your phone or computer. They don't really think about that much because they just kind of do the normal stuff to maybe let you open your email and open your browser and all these things. But those operating systems have a huge history and they're super important.
Right.
And they're doing a million things behind the scenes. So why choose one or the other? Yeah. Well, Linux is free most of the time. So if you're ever going to buy a new computer, you don't maybe realize that you're spending a little extra money that goes to Microsoft because it's a Windows computer, or you're spending a little extra money that goes to Apple because they put their operating system on it. You can buy and build your own computer and not put Windows on it. And it's a little cheaper, but then what do you put on it? It's just like sitting there blank. It'll like put a little cursor just blank. It's like nothing's going on. That's when you install Linux.
Right. So what's the, like, why would somebody make something for free?
Okay, very good question. Well, it turns out there may be an overall better world because you do it.
Okay.
So you may not make personal money, but you actually may. There's ways to make money off of a free software thing.
Right.
But really, it powers so much in the world that it's just worth it. Somebody, this guy Linus Torvalds, he's the creator of Linux. He just had this vision that it needed to be free, and not only that, it needed to be open source.
Right.
So that's a whole other topic we'll talk about later. But the idea is that not only can you use it for free, you can modify it. You can see how it's made. You can change things. You can tweak it.
Right.
But the way that he has it as the rules is that you then have to pass it off for free too.
Right.
So what's cool is that it's sort of forcing everybody to make it a little bit better and remain free.
Right.
So nobody can just sort of take it and say, that's mine, and then charge everybody.
Right.
So I mentioned Android, Android on the phones or whatever. That is Linux. So Android wouldn't exist if Linux didn't exist because it's based off of Linux. So they're able to tweak it and they can do their thing. They're not allowed to sell Android necessarily for money because of those free rules, but they can tweak it, they can make it better and make you want to buy your Samsung phone because of Android. So anyway, Linux makes Android. Linux is basically what the core of what Linux has is also in Mac OS. So they have it too. It's everywhere. And so imagine if it wasn't free, just the amount of people that have to pay extra or you wouldn't use it or whatever. Now it's running like, half the websites that are out there in the world. And so it's just something that needed to happen. So I'm kind of happy that it was free.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefit in just being able to make things easier for other people. And on top of the fact that it just has intrinsic benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's been the more techie, nerdy version of that. So it's not like it's necessarily making it super easy for your average everyday Joe.
Right.
And now it is. What's great is that now it seems a little more like Windows or anything.
Right.
But it's making it easier for people to move it forward.
Right.
Add a little bit, change a little bit. So sometimes that gets a little wonky. Sometimes things don't work quite right. Windows and Mac, they want to make sure it works as much as they can 100% of the time. This, it's more like, well, we'll get it to work, but we need your help.
Yeah.
So, but it is a little crazier, but it's definitely the big issues are, or big positives are, it's free, open source. It's running a zillion things out there that you may not even know. I mean, sometimes like even the motion sensor on the grocery store door, or like the little keypads that are locking things, those run Linux. So Linux can be big, it can be small. It's just, if you were having to build something, your options are to pay a bunch of money for some other operating system, or maybe to use Linux and tweak it yourself. Right.
It really brings that access to all of the inventors and the creative types, basically you.
Yes, you guys. So that's why we're telling you. So it may not be the easiest thing, but that's not why we're telling you guys, because you guys are a little bit better than just one.
Yeah, we don't want the
route.
easy cakewalk.
No.
It's like, no, you're not just going to go out there and buy or use them. I mean, I am.
Well, yeah,
I'm going to.
Well, you have to have both. You got to have a Mac and use Linux. So,
all right.
So why not Linux? And before I hype it up too much, it's not for everything. You know, there's different tools in the toolbox. So Linux is a little more configuration. So imagine if you ever gone into settings or something didn't quite work right, or you like tried to change the setting and it was like, what's going on? Or something like maybe your screen just like flashed wrong or didn't turn on right. All those things are way more often in Linux just because not everything is honed to your computer exactly. Like there's so many different computers that Linux works on. It doesn't necessarily work perfectly for every graphics card or every hard drive. So sometimes you have to be installing a little bit of extra software to get it to work, or going in there and changing some little file that you never knew existed. So there's a little bit more of a hands-on how to fix stuff. It's
kind of like a Millennium Falcon, if you will.
And I will, yes, that's true. It breaks down every once in a while. It doesn't always go to hyperdrive. But when it does, it can go 0.4 parsecs past light speed.
I heard that they killed it on the Kessel run.
Oh yeah, under Kessel run under 6 parsecs or something. Getting swamp rats.
You heard.
Anyway,
looking nerve.
Excellent. We should have a whole show on Star Wars, really.
Yeah, we should. By the way, May the 4th be with us.
Oh, that's right. Nice.
Yeah, so happy Star Wars Day.
That's right.
As of yesterday.
Everything's happening.
Yeah. So,
okay, so a little more configuration to deal with, a little more problems, issues. So it's not the kind of thing where you're going to want to like write your thesis, save it all, and make sure it's all there the next time, because something might happen. You got to like, this can be maybe your playing around computer.
Your sandbox.
Sandbox. Good idea. Good. So let me show you, without further ado, at least give you a little taste of what it looks like. So check this out. This is Linux, and notice how it looks almost exactly like everything else. It almost looks like Windows. It almost looks like whatever. We got some boxes. We got some toolboxes. We got some files, some folders. So and there's a mouse. It's not scary. I mean, people think it's scary. It's not scary. It's just, and even as simple as like I showed you, you can just open Chrome, the browser, the web browser, and just have it there and just use Chrome. So there's not much more to it than that, even if you don't want to. So it can be very minimally different. You just have your Chrome and you can log in and do stuff.
I think the big thing is when you have these kinds of things, you have to go into it expecting that there's going to be a little bit of a struggle. But you're going to learn a lot more, and you're going to become more capable through the process.
Absolutely. Every time you have to fix one of those little configuration things or something goes wrong, you learn that. And that's where I feel like I got most of my knowledge from, is like messing stuff up or deleting operating system accidentally or losing all my files. So once you do that and you kind of learn why it happened and how to fix it, then you have more ammo to fight the next battle with. So
that's right. You got to kind of be into the tinkering mode. Like the Town Wizard said, you can't just go into it thinking like, all right, I just need to get from point A to point B and everything's going to run smoothly. You have to be, it's more of a creative process. And it is better than ever. I mean, before it was even more of that. There are ways to get Linux on your computer with basically no hassle, but have that frame of mind, because maybe there'll be something. You got to be ready for it. But that's why you guys are here. Okay, so another pro and con is you do a lot more with the command line. So the command line, let me show you. We talked about the command line before.
That's that. It's like a blinking cursor. You can type stuff and you can run commands. So what the command line does is basically everything that all the other clicking and typing stuff does, but it's a little more efficient and it's a little more nerdy. It's kind of fun. You can get in there. So for example, when you want to open a file, you maybe have some folders and you click through the folders and you double click on it maybe, and then you get to your file and you double click on it. Well, you can do all those things with the command line. You're just not clicking. You type the command CD, change directory, and then the name of the folder. So you can be doing all the same sort of things. You can open Chrome by just typing the name Chrome. So it's more about typing. And in a way that's like, why would I do that? I can just click on my stuff. So it seems kind of bad. So, a lot of times even editing these configuration files or something, you kind of have to do it with the command line. But the command line is super powerful. It's like the hacker tool and hacker in a good way, not necessarily a bad way, but you can do things 10 times in a row easily, where you might have to just click 10 times in a row. You can set these 20 different steps to do everything. Every time you boot up your computer, it can open these programs. It can log you into this. It can start editing your video and make you breakfast. So yeah, you can get all these things lined up and ready to go. So the command line is just another world that I highly recommend just trying out. And it's just that much more important in Linux. It exists in Windows and Mac, but in Linux, it's where you kind of get into it. So yeah. Command line, a little scary, not bad. Try it out, talk about that, but it's a big part of Linux, which is actually pretty nice. All right, so Linux. There's this word Linux, but like when you search for Linux, you're not going to just download Linux.
Right.
There's all sorts of different versions of it. So that's a whole mess to understand. So let's say you just like want Linux. You're hearing us talking like, I want it. What do I do? Well, you have to choose a distro. They call it a distribution. So what happens is, all of these base core Linux things get sort of made into a product that is good for this reason or that reason or this reason.
They all fall under the Linux umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. You got your Linux umbrella. And maybe part of it is because you need a real computer, like a desktop that's doing your normal, or your laptop that's doing your normal everyday thing. But you may also have a little tiny computer that's just plugged into your TV that you just want to watch Netflix on.
Right.
Or YouTube. And that's it.
A little Raspberry Pi.
A little Raspberry Pi, exactly. So you can put Linux on this Raspberry Pi computer to just do the Netflix stuff, use very little of your computer's resources, and be pretty fast at playing the videos, not confuse you with the command line. You can have the same base Linux be running this other thing that's way more. It does everything you want and can give you lots of command line things. So, and there's everything in between. There's some that are small enough just to fit on a USB drive, which is great for helping recover computers. So imagine your other computer dies, or your friend's computer, your mom's computer, and you want to help. You can put a whole operating system on that little USB drive, plug it into the computer. Instead of booting the computer from the computer, you boot it just from this USB drive, and it will boot up and look like, you know, Linux and Windows or whatever almost. And then you can see your hard drive of your broken computer and at least copy your files off. So if you just need to save your files, maybe your computer's busted or the screen's busted or something, if you can somehow get in there and just get your files off, that's step one. And you can do that with Linux.
Very cool.
So there's all sorts of these different kinds for different purposes.
Now, is there a directory? Like if you wanted to go and say, like, do something like that, would you search which Linux do I need to use to recover my files, and then it would pop up? Yeah,
I would say there's enough out there, and if you Google basically any question, it'll eventually get you to an answer, if not right the first thing. Because people have done this so many times, and it's so kind of confusing that even the basic questions like which version of Linux should I use, that will have answers. So I have a link in the show notes about a few different versions compared for different reasons. So that's good. You can check that out. There's a list of the most popular overall Linux distros at any time. So you can just look at the most popular and see about that. But definitely Google questions about it. What's the goal? If you have a specific goal, like you want to be able to watch Netflix on your TV, or you want to be able to make more robotics, or you want to be into programming, or you just want it to be an average computer, if you Google any of those questions, they'll probably lead you toward the right one. Town Wizard recommendations here. If you want just kind of the regular computer, I just want a laptop, I just want to browse the internet and do my things, Ubuntu. U-B-U-N-T-U. Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Or Ubuntu, I guess some people say. But Ubuntu is the most, I think, like easy breezy Linux distro. Meaning you just kind of install it, and that's what I was showing you on my computer. You got Chrome, you got your things, it works. What's nice about that also is the update process is pretty nice. Like, we'll talk about updates later, but it will automatically update your computer, anything that needs a little updating, or if you want to update things, that kind of works. Sometimes that process doesn't even work that well. So, you don't want to necessarily deal with that a lot unless you're into it. So Ubuntu does a good job of sort of handling all of the updates and problems for you. Maybe even the most commonly talked about one on Google, so that it'll have the most answers to your questions if you need it. There's ones called Debian. That's another overall pretty good one. The one just for your like TV to watch your own videos or Netflix, there's one called XBMC. And again, that's very simple. It doesn't have all this other stuff. So that's nice if you just want to watch the videos, because it's a little more smooth. The video will be a little better quality just because it's not doing all this other stuff.
Right.
And then Puppy Linux. Puppy Linux is the one that you can fit on a USB drive because it's so small and save other people's computers.
That's cool.
So there's a way to drag those files onto a USB stick in the right way so that when you plug it into the computer, you start it from that stick. And then you get this window where you thought your computer was broken. You can check things out.
Sweet.
So yeah, check out the list of ones compared and all the differences. There's one for every day of the week, different reasons. So, okay, so last bit is we've got a couple pieces of software on your normal computer that you'll now need on Linux because it doesn't exist.
Okay.
So for example, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, Excel, those don't exist for Linux.
Huh.
So people made other ones.
Nice.
So there's a zillion other ones. There's OpenOffice is called one.
Yep, OpenOffice, I've used that before.
LibreOffice, I believe.
LibreOffice.
Which is similar. But then obviously there's the ones like Google Docs on the web, and you can use all of those.
Right.
But it's just an example of where there's not quite always the right software, but somebody else made an alternative.
Right.
So another example is for just text editing, writing a note. Maybe you use Microsoft Word, but maybe you'd use Notepad or the little Notes app. Or just if you want to open some file on your computer, a text file. Well, Linux has a few kind of built in. One of them called Vim.
Okay.
V-I-M. And if you're the nerdy type, you love Vim because there's no keyboard and mouse for Vim. Whoa. It's all in the command line.
Whoa.
You're not clicking on anything. You always have to press up, up, down, back, left, right, start, select.
Wow.
And then,
God mode.
And yeah, exactly. And just even in Vim, what's funny is to even type letters, you have to press a key to get it to type letters mode.
Whoa.
So before you're in type letters mode, you're in like move around mode or like copy mode, paste mode. And then you have to press I. And once you press I, now you can start typing.
Whoa.
So that kind of messes with people sometimes because they're like trying to type and it's just moving things around and cutting text. Okay, so that's a little crazy. It turns out the people that are fastest at Vim, using Vim and typing and moving stuff, are way faster than you or I would be at any of these other programs, clicking or any of that. We're slow. Right. Vim people, you should YouTube Vim power users because they're just nuts, man. They're just going all over, have multiple windows open, copying stuff from one to another. Right. No mouse, no keyboard.
Wow.
Incredible. Or wait, no, yes, keyboard. Anyway, now, if that's not your cup of tea and that's a little crazy, there's one called Nano. Nano still is just text-based, but it doesn't require you to press a key to start typing. It's more like what you'd expect. You start typing, it's in there, and it has the little keyboard shortcuts at the bottom so you can see how you would quit the program. Right. You have to press Control X, I think, to quit the program. But it has that all listed. So anyway,
holy smokes.
Vim for the daredevils out there, and then Nano for the easing into it. Right. And by the way, to open these programs, it's not that you necessarily go click on something. You're already in your command line. In the command line. You just type N-A-N-O, enter. Boom. And just open. Wow. So, and then imagine there's commands for a zillion other things. So, bottom line is it can do, if not the same amount, way more than all these other operating systems. Right. It's fun to play around with. It's free. And it has a little bit of this learning factor that you need. Once you get in there, you'll be learning so much stuff that applies to other stuff. Even if you get confused, that is going to come up somewhere else. One bit of that configuration. The next time you're going to be like, oh, I remember having to configure my hard drive on Linux, so now I know how to do it on this computer.
And we definitely are proponents here for putting yourself in a situation where you got to learn. You got to be uncomfortable. And everyone has gone through that to a certain extent. I mean, even accessing this YouTube video, at one point, you had to figure out how to use, YouTube, and figure out what to click on. And it was difficult and it was hard. But during that time, you were learning. Your brain is growing. It's getting stronger. The connections are being built. Exactly. And so it's using something like Linux is really going to facilitate that kind of struggle and growth in you.
Absolutely. I attribute a lot of my version of that to Linux specifically, in that it was just the one. You kind of learn so much from that that's useful for other computer stuff that I would say, of all things to try, this is one of them.
So boom, deal with it, get on it.
That's right.
All right, which brings us to
music. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about Spotify and Apple and the decision that is happening.
Okay.
So Spotify is a music streaming service that you can also try if you haven't.
45 million users.
Wow.
45
That's pretty awesome.
million users.
It's a lot of people. So a lot of people listen to music, and that's the kind where you can listen to any song.
Right.
So I just choose this song. I want to listen to it. They have advertising, but you can pay them also $10 a month and get all the music.
If you're a student, it's $5.
Oh, even better. Nice. Oh, that's amazing. That's perfect. So now here's the thing. Spotify doesn't own all of that music.
Right.
They're having to pay the people who actually own the music.
Right.
Just like every other service. Pandora, Grooveshark, by the way, which died. So Grooveshark said, I give up. We can't just pay all this money, so I'm done.
Right.
So anyway, so Spotify's been shelling out. They're losing money like crazy. I mean, they're getting money from other sources, investors and stuff. But they're just losing money because they have to pay all this money to the music labels. And so there are basically 4 big music labels. But those are all kind of split up into littler labels, and there's deals between those labels, and so it's all a little bit of a mess. But bottom line is, Apple owns the Beatles music catalog, as well as a few others, and so they're the ones that Spotify or anybody else would be paying for that music. And if Apple doesn't like that, they could say nope, or if any of these other people.
Right.
So what's happening? What's the deal? Apple is sort of saying, maybe not, or give us more money, or so they have leverage. So what could happen is that they can say, no, we're not going to allow you to have any of our music, and we're going to have this other service that competes with Spotify, which is they already have iTunes, but they could either ramp it up or have better deals or just exclusive content.
Right.
And then Spotify just either has to pay a ton to Apple or can't even get it.
Right.
So we're in the situation where Spotify is having to basically argue to say, please, please, please don't screw all our 45 million people over, because we're giving them something they like. So we'll see if they can work that out.
Right. So craziness.
Yeah.
And you on, the user level could be feeling this effect in a pretty big way. One of the funnier things about Spotify is always the artist check. Have you ever seen those posted? So like every time that you get a song that's played, an artist get a song that's played, they get 0.0001 cent or something like that. So one of the funnier ones is like sometimes an artist will say, say like, oh, my song got 10 million, clicks and listens to, and it's $100.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of a weird thing. Like you got to 10 million people.
Yeah.
And you got $100.
$100. Ooh.
I've seen some. That calculation is a little rough. Like sometimes it's more than that, sometimes less than that.
Really depends.
I think what the bottom line is, number one, it sucks that these labels have so much control and are not giving us the service like Spotify is.
Right.
So Spotify figured out how to give the service, but they don't own the music, so they're kind of at the mercy of these other guys.
Right.
The other guys have the music, but they haven't quite given us a good enough experience like Spotify.
And the thing is really the industry has gone flat in the way that people can make and produce music for a much lower cost, and you don't need the huge studio, support to create that music, and also to distribute the music.
That used to be crazy.
And that used to be
CDs and albums and tapes, and actually producing them and printing them and sending them everywhere.
Right. You got to melt the wax.
Right. Melt the wax. You needed labels to help you understand all that and finance that and do all that.
Satellite towers to get the music out.
And radio broadcast. So these days, you're right. Everybody can sort of do it in their own house. That's a little misleading because it's not quite totally all the time possible, but it is very much possible. And so if you can somehow eliminate that middleman that sort of Apple is being right now, or all these labels are being, then you can make more money on your own music. So instead of 10 million plays equaling 5 cents, you could actually make whatever the people are willing to pay to Spotify, you could make most of that. But the other is that these music services and these labels or whatever, they're still 5-10 years behind. They're struggling. Right. They need to just come to an understanding that people will pay a little bit for music, but that's not the future. People aren't just going to pay a ton for music. Right. So the whole industry has to shift a little bit to maybe making more money off of concerts, merchandise, that kind of thing. And we're seeing a little bit of that.
Right, exactly. So that's our music side of the week, which brings us to Mr. Ellsberg's side of the week. All right, so this week I've got a website for you.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, and as you may know, that this is the birthday of one town wizard.
Oh, that's right.
And
it's true.
And you will see how old is the town wizard.
This is how old we look?
Yep, this is a how old do I look? The how old robot. As you can see, the wizard could be anywhere from 42 to 51 years old.
Wow, yeah, I've got the age, huh? Oh, you're coming into young 38 to 46.
Yeah,
huh?
it's one of the two.
Wow, you're definitely 38 or 46.
Yeah,
though.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
That's hilarious. So they say that, sorry if they didn't quite get it right, but they're still improving it.
Yep.
So, wow, I didn't realize I was so old. Well, okay, I feel wise. That's good. I'm glad the robots know.
That's right. So if you want to see how old you are to a robot, then go to how-old.net.
Nice. So
to upload your photo.
Maybe in the future at like grocery stores, if you're trying to buy any beer or anything, they just have the robot tell you, "Oh, yep, you're 51. That's fine." And then little kids are like wearing fake beards.
That's right.
Nice.
So yes, you are anywhere between, what is it, 30, 40, 41,
40 something. Yeah, not quite. All right, good try.
All right, and which brings us to our final segment, the security tip of the week.
So, we were speaking of updates. This is just a general reminder to update. Update your software. All of it, really. I mean, the reasons to update are endless. The main ones being you're unsafe if you don't.
Right.
So let me give you a quick analogy. Imagine that someone found a way to break into the lock on your door.
Okay. Yep.
And they published it on the internet.
Boom.
And they said, all you have to do is take a pen and you just put it in just this way into the lock on your front door, and it pops open.
You can get into Mr. Ellsberg's house whenever you want.
Exactly. I mean, that's a little scary. What could there be in there?
Right.
But so all it takes is just a pen, and let's say everybody learns about that. Right. And it's not a special pen, it's just a regular pen. You just put it in there in a certain way and just do it. Now, let's say that lock manufacturer came out with the fix.
Yep.
And they said, hey, everybody, if you put a pen in this way exactly right, it'll ruin our locks and people get in. But all you have to do is put on this little new goo and it fixes it. And they gave the goo out to everybody for free. And they said, just put it on and it totally fixes it.
Yep.
And imagine if 90% of the people just didn't do it. And not only that, that's like pretty bad. But not only that, the robbers out there who want to rob houses looked at this goo and the pen and they said, you just told me how to break into the house. And yeah, people can put goo on it, but they didn't. So not only are people who kind of figured it out in the first place trying to do it, but they're telling the world how actually to do it and how to fix it.
Right.
But that information gets out there. So this is the same with updates. If you have an update, that means somebody, like Microsoft and Windows has an update, or your phone app has an update. That means somebody found a problem, published the problem,
right,
said here's the fix, and so now anybody who wants can look up that problem and just reuse it on anybody that has an update.
So you've got to update.
Just update. Just click update on your computer, on your phone, on your brain, anything you see the word update, except if it's a scam.
Yeah, be careful of those. Yeah.
So anyway, update.
Update. So yes, we talked about Linux.
Oh yeah, try it out.
We talked about Apple and Spotify.
Oh yeah, pay money.
And then we talked about how old you are.
Oh yeah, 40s and 50s.
And finally, update your Steves.
Just update, just do it.
Figure it out. That's all here from Tech Down. I hope you guys have a wonderful, safe Cinco de Mayo, and we will see you next week here on Tech Down.
Peace.
Bro.